Cool shot here of Dragon Zord in fighting mode, which I don't think we've seen yet in the comic. Life is a never-ending array of frustration and just wanting to scream. Hello there, heroes. I'm the Orange Ranger, and welcome to another comically long review. Wow, it is amazing what dedicating a weekly series to a backlog will actually do to that backlog. I can remember way back when I was languishing in the single digits of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and now I'm on issue 20. We just found out that billionaire entrepreneur Grace Sterling was once a Red Ranger for Zordon, and since we know absolutely nothing about that, I'm guessing we're about to find out. Let's take a look at Mighty Morphin Power Rangers issues number 20, 21, and 22. 5 covers for issue number 20, but only the main one actually warrants a mention. Kind of funny how often that happens. Anyway, it is a full-frame face shot of the Red Ranger helmet reflecting the surface of the moon, the American flag, and the Earth. Very evocative and a great single-image statement of the story that we're about to get. We start out on the day United States astronauts landed on the moon, seeing various people watching or listening to the historic event.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
But then we see that nearby Neil Armstrong and his famous steps, a ship rests in a crater. Inside is the green Psycho Ranger. Yes, it turns out there was another Psycho Ranger. Why didn't they fight the Space and Galaxy Rangers along with their cohorts? We shall see. The ship detects people nearby and starts the wake-up protocol. Later, a woman is sitting on a roof, seemingly feeling sad. A friend comes up and starts talking to her, and it turns out that they're part of the space program. This woman developed a lot of what's being used on that moon landing and has tested the best of all the women. And it turns out that this is Grace Sterling. The friend, Marcus, encourages her to keep trying, and then she disappears in red energy. She appears in the command center, along with 4 other people who are already there. One is a hippie woman, one is a war veteran, one is a Russian man, and the other is a regular guy, I guess. The Russian only speaks Russian at first, but eventually Alpha activates the translator system so they can all communicate. Zordon quickly explains the situation, saying time is of the essence. Blah blah Rita, blah blah dumpster, we know that part. It turns out Zordon was a bit more pragmatic, setting up pulse cannons on Earth to defend the dumpster. Psycho Green came to find and free Rita, but the cannons shot him down. However, the ship crashed on the moon, keeping Psycho Green alive while waiting for rescue. Now, the proximity of the American astronauts have awoken this Ranger. Alpha jammed their communications, so Green can't contact Dark Spectre, but obviously he'll keep working to complete his mission, so Zordon has recruited a team to become the Power Rangers to go to the moon and stop him. They are of course reluctant at first, but when Grace hears that she gets to go to the moon, she's totally in and convinces the others to join her. Zordon gives the team their morphers, and it's morphin' time. And what an interesting team we have. Since Grace has the most spacefaring experience, she's the leader as the Red Ranger. The other woman, Jamie, is the Black Ranger. So wait, there are 2 girls and they're red and black. The other 3 colors are blue, yellow, and pink. Does that mean? Yes, Daniel, the regular guy, is the Pink Ranger. The Russian, Nikolai, is the Blue Ranger, and the Army vet, Torona, is the Yellow Ranger. Alpha teleports them up to the moon, and they all have a little moment, especially Grace, who is moved by the experience. The rest of the team then starts arguing, reflecting the lack of wisdom in picking 5 completely random people. She rallies the troops, though Nikolai at first rejects taking orders from a secretary. He comes around when she displays her immense knowledge of the moon and sends him and Jamie on a recon mission. Psycho Green climbs out of the crater as the 2 approach it and talk, Nikolai denying he's a spy, and Jamie explaining that she's just a musician. As they discuss it, Green sneaks up behind them. Meanwhile, Daniel asks if Grace really is just a secretary. Torona thinks he's dismissing her, but it's actually quite the opposite. He's happy that someone like her was picked to be the leader versus the Vietnam veteran. Yes, Daniel is a pacifist and a protester, and the two of them fight over the necessity of the Vietnam War until they hear a cry for help and see an explosion. And this is when we get to see that Psycho Green is not playing around. He tosses the two around, eventually kicking Nikolai in a way that would have sent him into the depths of space had Grace not been there to catch him. Whew, a near miss. Man, this story is intense. You see, here's another near miss. Psycho Green holds up a large boulder over Jamie, who begs him not to. But then the other Rangers run over and, Green smashes Jamie with the boulder. Jamie is dead. Daniel dives at Psycho Green, who punches him directly in the visor, shattering it and exposing him to the vacuum. And he suffocates. 2 down, just like that. He zaps the other 3 and then starts walking to Rita's dumpster. However, the Rangers rise, forming a smaller version of the power blaster and blasting Green until he seems to be gone. As they talk about the fact that 2 of them are actually for real completely dead, Green revives as a giant monster. They run, conveniently finding what would become Rita's palace and a large cannon there. Since Green is so big, Torona says they won't get many chances to fire. Nikolai takes the cannon and says he'll only need 1. We will save the Earth today, Grace. Make sure it's worth saving. He dives at Green, allowing him to eat him, and then fires the weapon, destroying them both. Back at the command center, Grace is berating Zordon for sending them into battle unprepared. He totally agrees, saying the situation was desperate, but he still should have tried to give them a little training. He promises the lives of the 3 dead Rangers won't be forgotten, which is kind of disingenuous, seeing as this is the first we're hearing of them, so they kind of were. She promises they won't be, as she and Torona use their powers to do good in the world. Yeah, that's not gonna work. Zordon says they cannot keep the powers. The fate of the world is no longer at stake, and they can't meddle in the affairs of humans by doing things like ending the Vietnam War. The 2 of them leave, Grace incredulous, Torona a little more accepting of this being a once-in-a-lifetime experience. However, while Grace couldn't keep her powers, she reveals something that she did keep. Psycho Green's dagger. Well, that was certainly something, wasn't it? Just as you're getting used to the idea of the Rangers existing in the 60s, Psycho Green shows up and starts killing anything wearing spandex. It's a pretty good story, I think, but taken on its own, and this entire issue is this story, so it kind of has to be taken on its own, you kind of lose its context to what it means to the present day, though I'm sure we'll touch on that later. Overall, still a pretty awesome story, though. Issue number 20 gets a 4 out of 5. 5 covers for issue 21, and sadly in this case, none of them are really amazing. Not even the main cover, which really just brings to mind the cover of a rap album, Rita and her crew standing around sneering. I will say that the Bandra Palace sign is broken, so present day? Anyway, we apparently watched issue 20 on the viewing globe along with the Rangers themselves. As you'd imagine, Zordon didn't mention any of this. Alpha says the death of those Rangers was one of their greatest sorrows, but Zordon wanted to wait until the time was right to tell the current Rangers about it. Zack points out that this is exactly what Zordon said to him when Rita offered him the Green Ranger powers, which means he apparently followed his coinless self's advice and has told the team about it. When Alpha mentions that they can discuss this with Zordon when he returns, Grace asks where he is, but that's kind of a long story. Grace says that she has made her peace with all of this, and Trini pieces together from her autobiography that the deaths of the 3 Rangers, especially Nikolai and his admonition to Grace to make the world a better place, motivated her to leave Nasada and start Promethea. Tommy says that they should get to the point here, and Grace says the situation with Finster and his disguised monsters has made it all the more necessary that they should team up. Of course, I'd consider them already rather teamed up, considering the fact that she's seeing all of them without their helmets on. Anyway, she says that she has something to show them. She takes them on a trip to Promethea's HQ. Huh, look, it's a big city dome on top with connecting tubes and bridges to other smaller domes. Kind of reminds you of Terra Venture, doesn't it? She tells them about the amazing things that they're doing at Promethea, such as researching dark matter for alternative energy. Billy points out he nearly got an internship there, but things happened, which Grace says should be rectified. Just gonna point out now, this is pointing to plot over in Go Go Power Rangers. I will get to it eventually. Jason nudges her and she says yes, she needs to get to the point. She brings the Rangers to a room in which it appears that a man is being held prisoner. The man says he's perfectly normal and has even described his regular life to them. Jason starts to get upset, but Grace basically says just to watch. Right on cue, he transforms into a cat monster. A cat with 9 heads instead of tails. That's kind of cute. It seems they've found a way to track these creatures a little closer to transformation by a unique energy signature. Grace instructs her agent here to put the monster down via electricity, and they fry it. Trini points out that the man was terrified and didn't seem to know that he was a monster. The others were just pretending and became joyous as they started transforming. Grace says that it seems that Finster started making some of these monsters with baked-in memories to help them blend in. But as they discuss this, we see the monster make a noise and wake up. It takes off through a door that was probably open to remove the monster's body and escapes. The Rangers leap into action to take on... Are you ready for this one? Mr. Meowgie. I was going to do the personal association with animals thing again to call this thing various cats that I have or have had, but nothing beats Mr. Meowgie. When Zack points out that it has 9 heads, Billy realizes something. When it was electrocuted, it lost a head. Zack cut off another head. Yes, each head represents a life, so it has to be killed 9 times.
I can do it. I will do it 9 times.
The Rangers get to work, but quickly lose count. But then Meowgie gets stepped on by a brand new Zord or Megazord. It quickly finishes off the remaining lives. The Rangers are stunned Promethea has built a Zord, though Grace says it's technically not a Zord because it's not connected to the morphing grid, so it's just a mecha. But then she calls it a Mechazord. 1, Mechazord still has Zord in its name, and 2, this franchise has already used the term Mechazord. It's how Megaforce described the headers. Jason doesn't really care what it's called, more that Grace broke the escalation rule and Zordon's gonna scowl at you so hard. Grace is unapologetic. Promethea is proactive in anything they do. Besides, we're talking about Finster right now. She thinks that with some tweaks, they can detect these monsters 12 hours before they change. But there's no guarantee that they can get to them 12 hours before. The Rangers can teleport instantly. Jason cuts to the chase. She wants the Rangers to be their muscle. She calls it more working together for the greater good.
Shut it!
A communicator beep cuts all this off. It's Alpha reporting a breakthrough. Zordon has returned. Issue 21 is an interesting story, moving us from the filled-in gap of Grace's Ranger story and taking things forward. The Rangers are pictured as not exactly being sure who they can trust. Zordon's withholding of information and general mysteriousness is brought to the forefront, but at the same time, Grace doesn't seem 100% trustworthy either when she suddenly curb stomps a cat monster with her own Mechazord. Great story overall. Issue 21 gets a 4.5 out of 5. Just 4 covers for issue 22, but this time 3 of them are worth talking about, if just briefly. I really like this shot of the MMPR Megazords from the Connecting Cover series. Cool shot here of Dragonzord in fighting mode, which I don't think we've seen yet in the comic itself. And the main cover portends a new menace. Putties dressed like regular people clumped together, forming a face that looks oddly like the Megazord. We start things off on a weird world where the Wizard of Deception is getting a drink from a rather remote bar. Rita walks in, having finally tracked him down. She needs him to make her something, and even has his fee for asking at all prepared, the last embers of an ancient volcano. Turns out they're delicious on chicken. Anyway, he looks over her request, and it's very magically complex. She says she can provide the rarest of objects, but that's not what he wants for something like this. His request is far more simple, for her to search her soul and tell him the truth about why she wants it. She does so, admitting that she failed, foolishly gave something away, and desperately needs to take it back. She's telling the truth, and he agrees to create it for her. We see the corner of the document, and that Rita is commissioning the green candle. Meanwhile, Zordon is back, and the Rangers at first have their welcome back conversation, all jokes and smiles. But then it's time to get down to brass tacks. They kind of grill Zordon on not having told them about the past Rangers who died, and Zack again points out, directly to Zordon this time, that it ties right into asking him to keep Rita's offer secret. We finally get a direct statement of a big point people drew from the show itself. Zordon is incredibly secretive and only tells the Rangers what they need to know the moment they need to know it. He apologizes, saying that in general, his desire to protect the Rangers from the unpleasant aspects of his past may have been underestimating them. Trini points out that everything worked out for the best this time, since Grace found them anyway, and now they can work with her. Zordon urges caution. Prometheus tech is way ahead of the rest of the world, so where exactly did she find the means to make it? He also points out the key difference between the Rangers and Promethea. Promethea proactively seeks to change the world, while the Rangers are its defenders no matter what it currently is. Yada yada, Jason says he now wants to work with Grace, and Zordon defers to him as the leader of the team, just saying to be careful. The Rangers head over to Promethea to help shore up the technology, making sure to stay helmets on so nobody else sees their faces. Billy tells Tommy he doesn't need to stay and chat with him. Kim would probably be more talkative. That transitions us over to the girls, who are chatting about how freaky Finster's ability to create living monsters is, especially now that he can make them look human and have human memories. The conversation turns to Kim's family, since she's blowing off dinner with her dad and his new fiancé. Kim is feeling stupid to have thought that her parents would get back together, but Trini assures her that it wasn't. Kim tells Trini about how Tommy came to breakfast and it was awkward. Trini says that Kim doesn't need to tell her what's going on with them, but she might need to tell Tommy. Very interesting scene between Saba and Finster. Saba has come to make Finster a deal. The pocket dimension is limitless moldable energy. Anything Finster can imagine, he can create there. The two have an interesting debate about art, Saba supporting the pure value of creation, while Finster says art is meaningless without an audience to react to it. However, it's a moot point, as Saba's condition for Finster to stay there is shutting down the monsters, and Finster reiterates that he really does not have control of them. Equally interesting scene as Tommy and Kim try to hash out their issues. Oh, they can go helmetless now, as Billy did a doodad to the cameras. Anyway, Tommy apologizes for entering the diner and making her feel awkward, but she says it's fine. But he presses, feeling like things are not fine between them. He points out how they'll get really close, and then Kim will shut it all down. She can get as far as saying that Tommy doesn't make her sick or anything, but she can't explain what's going on. More character development in pairs? Sure, let's do it. Jason and Grace are discussing the monster issue, and then she pivots to what a good team he has. Especially Billy. Want to hire that kid. Talking about the team gives Jason a chance to ask Grace about how she dealt with losing 3 of her team members. She says she was in a shocked haze for weeks, with depression setting in after that. It's not that it gets easier, but the years do seem to dull the pain some. She asks if Jason's worried about that, and he talks about when Tommy and Billy were gone. There was a point where he thought they really had died, and that weighed on him, feeling like he was responsible, and that not only would their families never see them again, they'd never truly know what actually happened to them. That red helmet is heavier than the others. Grace talks about the responsibilities of leadership and how the best you can do is prepare for what you know and then learn about what you don't. It's a nice moment between two Red Rangers that's interrupted by the distraction of a monster. Unfortunately, up to 12 hours is a selling point that doesn't seem to have been reached yet, as it wasn't even 12 seconds. The monster is changing now. The Rangers teleport away and pressing the scientists from earlier. But then...
dark intrigues and
So, it's all off to a good start? I think so, Andrea, yes. Do they know? No, not yet. But you will tell them, right? When the time is right, they'll find out. But until then, there's a world to save. We're back to the plot dump development for issue 22, but honestly, I'm starting to think that these are the stronger issues. I really did like them doing the character development thing in pairs again. They've done that before, and they did it in this issue as well. And it was just absolutely delicious to start this issue with the Rangers accusing Zordon of only telling them things when the time is right, and ending the issue with Grace doing exactly the same thing. Issue 22 gets a 4.5 out of 5. So next week, I'm going back to reviewing 2 issues for a video, just for 1 week, as we'll take a look at Mighty Morphin Power Rangers issues number 23 and 24. Why am I only doing 2 issues in this video and saving 25 for the start of a brand new video? I'll tell you, heroes, when the time is right. That is going to wrap up another comically long review. Thank you, heroes, so much as always for watching. Make sure to click that thumbs up button right down below and let me know that you enjoyed the video. While you're down there in the comments, let me know what you thought of these issues as well as my review of them. Make sure you subscribe to the channel to see all my videos and ring the bell. Get your notifications set up so you are notified of whenever I post brand new videos like these comically long reviews. And if you would like to contribute financially to my channel, there are 2 ways you can do so. ko-fi.com/OrangeRangerVideos or digitaltipjar.com/OrangeRangerVid. Until next time, heroes, may the power protect you. Funny how often, Alpha jammed their communications. I should mention that now the astronauts on the moon have awoken this Ranger, and he's going to, Alpha jammed, did I mention? Oh yeah, I did mention Psycho. Since Grace has the most spacefaring experience, she's the leader. He comes around when she displays her immense knowledge of the moon and sends him and Jamie on a recon. And Jamie explaining that he's just a musician, and that's... she's just a musician. Jamie explaining that she's just a musician. She's just a musician. Psycho Green climbs out of the crater as the two approach Psycho Glean. We will save the Earth today, Grace. Make sure that it's worth saving. That's more German. Kind of reminds you of Terra Venture. The Rangers get to work. The Rangers are stunned Promethea has a built Zord built. Especially when she curb stops a camp. We start things off in a weird world where the wizard with the world. She needs him to make her something and has his fee for oh God. He also points out that the key difference between the Rangers and Promethea is being able to read lines properly. Oh, they can go, oh, they can go, oh, they can go, oh. And they did it again in this issue with character development basically coming in 3 pairs. And this track is, oh yeah, it's bad, it's just bad.